Hi everybody, my name is Dennis, and last month I played in an over-the-board chess tournament for the first time in almost a year at the Dewey Beach Open in coastal Delaware, and I thought maybe to record some of my experiences, take some pictures and film from my time at the tournament and from my trip in general. I'd never done anything like that before, didn't tell anybody I was doing it. I don't know if I want to do it again, but I definitely did enjoy it. So I've finally managed to compile everything into one video, and I hope it's going to be fun for you guys to watch. Some of it will be me giving my thoughts and experiences at the time, and some of it's going to be me jumping in after the fact with voiceovers and footage I took from the trip, things like that. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And without further ado, let's get into my trip to the Dewey Beach Open chess tournament. Just rolled out of bed, took a shower. Today is Wednesday, the 11th of January, and I am about to leave for the beach in spite of the fact that it's the middle of the winter. So I set out on my trip. I drove about 3 hours from my apartment in Baltimore to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I've arrived. There's literally nobody here. This would be packed during the summer, but not much going on right now. I'm gonna get my stuff sort of unpacked and get ready to get set up. It is pretty cold, but it's also windy as hell out here. The sun's kind of starting to go down. You can see the water is quite rough with all the wind. No ice or anything. It hasn't snowed in a while. Last year when I did this, there was snow all over the place, which made it really cool to see sort of an icy beach. That's not the case here, but it's still pretty cool. But it's also pretty cold, and so I might go back inside soon. Huge shout out to my parents, by the way. This is their apartment that they have here at the beach, and during the summer they rent it out. There's so much demand for it, but during the winter there's nobody here for long stretches of time, so I'm able to stay here and play in the tournament, which is less than 10 minutes away. While I'm here, I will still be working for the next couple of days, and then also there are a bunch of various things around the apartment that I'm supposed to help out with because nobody's been here in a while, and eventually, even though it's January, they're going to want to make sure that things are up and running for the upcoming season. So I'm really thankful that I have a place to stay and that this tournament is so close by, and I'm really excited to be able to play. I guess nobody's been here since daylight savings. That would explain this clock, but it wouldn't explain this one. This one is just off by kind of a random amount of minutes. And then the microwave is just saying, please press clock, please. So obviously nobody's been here in a while. I forgot my parents put this here. This is apparently something that I drew or painted in May of 2001 when I would have been 2 years old. I think this used to be actually at my grandmother's house and then has been placed here. I forgot about this. So anybody who's ever been in this room has seen some of my artwork, I guess. On Thursday morning, I woke up a lot earlier than I'd expected to. And I guess one downside of being in a beach town during the middle of the off season is that a lot of places are having work done so that they'll be ready when people come back as it gets warmer. And in my case, I got awoken by the sounds of hammers and screwdrivers and things probably around 7:30 a.m., which is a lot earlier than I had been waking up around that time. But it wasn't such a bad thing, because one of the most important things for me when I'm playing a tournament is sleep. Maintaining a good sleep schedule is the hardest thing in the world for me these days, and I think that even that morning I already recognized this might be a good thing, because it's making me get up early, and I decided not to try to sleep through the noise. I just got up and walked around, and I did some filming instead. I've been to this corner of the world many times. My family would stay here for a week in August every year of my childhood, Plus, I've been back many other random times over the years, so it's a very familiar place. But the interesting feeling to me is being here when there's nobody around. It's very difficult to describe, but I really like it. Most of my life, I've associated the beach with a few things, crowds and hot temperatures being two of them, and neither of those things apply in the dead of the off season. It's kind of like visiting the center of a big city, but finding it totally empty. And there's a beauty in that emptiness, in my opinion. I really went through this experience when I played this event last year, since it was my first time ever being in this town at that time of year, and there was snow and ice all over the place. An empty, icy winter beach. It was a really weird and cool feeling to see another side of a place that I had been to many times before. On my walk on Thursday morning, I made it to a little area that means a lot to me. This picture is from the year 2008, I believe. I would have been 9 years old and had just learned how to play chess. It's definitely the earliest photo that exists of me playing, and my opponent is my dad. So in the summers to come, my parents would let me hang around the big chessboards outside of this game store, and I would just challenge whoever showed up and wanted to play me. And I would stay here for hours playing random people until the evening came and the owners packed up. So although the pieces were put away and the shop was closed for winter, I had to come to this spot, just for old time's sake. Later in the early evening, when I'd finished working and wanted to do some more exploring, I actually drove over to the site of the tournament in neighboring Dewey Beach, and I just wanted to look around and scout out the situation a bit. So I did a little bit of investigating, and I found out that the way to enter the new tournament hall is actually going up here, like as if you're going into this restaurant or bar or whatever. But then you turn this way, and then this seems to be the ballroom where the tournament will be held, which is not where it was held last year. And if you come out here, you get kind of a nice view of the Rehoboth Bay. I took a while to just kind of take in the scenery here. I walked around a bit, I collected some footage for the vlog, and I thought it was important to take pressure off myself because it was my first tournament in a very long time. And there are a bunch of reasons for that. I could get into some of them in the future if anybody wanted me to, but to put it really simply, I had to totally reevaluate my commitment to chess after I got to 2200 USCF in early 2022, which had been my goal for a long time. And I just couldn't motivate myself to play because my enjoyment of the game was not nearly at the same level as it had been in previous years, especially long before I achieved my goal. But eventually I decided I needed to play again, and I decided to play in this tournament because I had planned to play an amateur team East, and I thought I needed a warm-up, and I thought the trip would be good for my mental health, and I really thought it was time for me to play in a tournament again. I don't have much footage from Friday because I spent a lot of the morning and evening working, and in the middle of the day, I went for a very long walk, and I decided not to bring my phone. I think that was a good decision. I didn't want any distractions. The walk was really awesome and did a good job of clearing my mind ahead of the tournament, but it also means that I don't have too much to show you from Friday. Here's a place I like, the local bookstore, where I've spent countless hours sitting in this specific nook at the back corner reading all kinds of stuff over the years. Anyway, after that, it was time to head back and get sleep. Just arrived. Man, it's windy. Have to remember that my goal is not any specific results. My goal is to have fun. That's what I'm going to be trying to do today. I'm going to try to have fun. See you on the other side, I guess. Round 1 in the books. I'm sitting behind the tournament area, looking out towards the Rehoboth Bay. I'm very happy with how I played in my first game, although my opponent probably did me some favors, but it went very well. I think that positionally I kind of had total control the entire way, and eventually I won 2 pieces for a rook, and then after a lot of maneuvering I kind of got in and basically delivered checkmate. It was a very positional game. It was in a Benoni, and I'm very happy with the way that I played overall, so that's a good sign. There were some little glitches and miscalculations along the way. Like, there were some moments when it felt like I was just kind of warming up, jittery, whatever, but the actual moves that I played, I'm very satisfied with. So that's a good start, but obviously there are going to be more difficult opponents to come. I would say that my round 1 game was a really good start. A very clean game. Maybe I could make a video out of it at some point, since I think there are a lot of instructive moments that I could show. As you can see in this position, I have several guys putting pressure on this weak pawn on d6, and I'm attacking my opponent's knight on e4 as well. And if my opponent moves this knight, then all I have to do is play rook b6, and there is no way to defend the pawn on d6. So instead, my opponent chose to play bishop a4, and he ended up giving up 2 minor pieces for a rook. Might have been the relatively best choice, but after that it was not too difficult for me to generate a lot of activity and eventually win the game on the king side. And here I broke through with this sacrifice. Bishop takes f6, and my opponent was mated by force. He resigned after the move queen g6 check. Now, I had a lot of nerves coming into this tournament, but I think this game did a very good job of warming me up for some of the tough rounds that were ahead of me. I did try to record a video right after round 2, but I didn't include it in this compilation because I was outside and it was so windy that the audio was just awful, so I'll just show the key moment of this game here. This guy was about the same rating as my first opponent, roughly 1800, but he was a young kid and played very well for much of the game. Here I'm trying to win a complicated ending as black, but it's pretty tough. And I'm up a pawn, but my king is weird, and white definitely has enough to make a draw with best play. Now in this position I played king h3, and when I played this move I knew that my opponent's best response would have been knight f3. And at first glance it looks impossible because I can take the b pawn, but then white can go with knight g5 check and they can take on e6, and after this the position becomes very complicated. I was low on time, so I actually think if this had happened, it's possible I could have lost the game. But objectively, it's definitely a draw, even though I'm up a pawn. Now, instead of that, though, my opponent did not find knight f3 and played king g5. And I knew this was a big mistake right away. And I played bishop d8 check, and then h6. And now I'm threatening bishop g5, and my opponent no longer has the knight f3 to g5 resource. So now black is winning. He still tried it, but I was able to take on b3, trade away this knight. And I really enjoyed this position because around here you can see his bishop is actually kind of trapped. So I can take all the time I need to get my king in. And here he sacrificed the bishop. And then after knight takes a5, my opponent finally resigned. That was a very tough game though. Definitely could have drawn or even lost the game if 1 or 2 little things had happened differently. Walking out of the tournament hall on 3 out of 3. It is cold and windy as hell. I'm pretty happy with how I played today. That last game was tough. That was a former student of mine. He was good. Maybe he'll get me next time, not today. Time to eat some dinner and get ready for tomorrow. I got a tough game. Tomorrow I'm going to play the other person on 3 out of 3 who's an expert. And he's pretty good, so I'm a little scared, but I can do hard things. So, but for the moment I'm happy. For the moment I'm very happy. As I said, this game was psychologically kind of tough because I was facing someone I had taught for years. And he's a young kid who's become really strong, and I would expect that in the next year or two he'll make expert. Eventually he'll be a master too if he keeps at it. Sky's definitely the limit for him. He's a really good kid, and his family has always been just really nice to me. So nothing but wholesome vibes, but it's still a pressure situation when you're playing somebody you've taught for a long time. Now, honestly, my position here is not that great, so I tried to turn things around by pushing e5, changing the structure. And although the position remains about equal, that seemed to give me some play. I think my opponent played very well until this move, knight h5, which is probably very decentralizing. And at this point, my pawn became very dangerous. I pushed it to d6, and now white is close to winning. Here, though, in what should have been a near winning position, I made a huge mistake that nobody noticed until way later, which was the move queen a3. Now, when I played this move, I was assuming that my opponent couldn't take the d pawn because I saw this line, rook a8, and now if black takes on c5, I can take back, and I'm going to win black's queen. So I saw that much. And my plan was that if rook c8 here, I was going to take it, but then in this position, black can now take on c5, and I totally missed this move order somehow. And now b takes c5, queen takes c8, and I would straight up be down a pawn here. Might have some compensation, but definitely this would be a disaster given how well I had been doing, and I could easily lose this position even against a low-rated opponent. But thankfully, black didn't find that. I think maybe my opponent thought he was just lost no matter what, so he played king g7, and then it was easy for me. I pushed d7, he tried a creative defense with bishop d6, but I found the winning move queen a5, and after a few more moves, I took on c8 making a queen. There's one check, but then after king f2, my opponent's out of checks and completely lost, so he decided to resign. So once again, I survived a bit of a scare, but you know what? After day one, I was on 3 out of 3 and feeling very good. Bit of a recap of day one of the tournament. I would say that I played pretty well. It wasn't perfect by any stretch. There were definitely some misevaluations of positions. That last game, I thought I had a winning position before I actually did. And there was a way that he could have defended. And I bet that if he had found that I would have even lost the game actually, because I was getting low on time. And I assumed that I was winning. So if he had played the correct sequence, then that would have been a problem for me. But my opponent kind of believes me. Former student of mine, I'm sure that if I ever face him again, it'll be really a difficult ask for me to beat him since he's getting better every time. Tomorrow, I'm going to be playing an expert, probably the second highest rated player in the section, and I'm probably going to have black as well. So that's going to be the first game tomorrow. I just need to make sure to get good sleep tonight. I was taking a look at the stats on my Fitbit, and it told me that apparently I had like 2.5 hours worth of zone minutes just from playing chess. And also it said I burned like 3,500 calories, which is absolutely insane. I guess chess is a really intensive activity, even though you might not think it is. But I'm happy with my results so far. I'm mostly happy with the way I'm playing. I've gotten a lot of little things wrong as far as evaluations or specific moves, but all the big stuff I've gotten right. For the most part, I'm satisfied. But those were 3 considerably low-rated opponents, so tomorrow is going to be a bigger challenge. And I have to remember that above all, my goal is to have fun. And with that out of the way, I am going to get to preparing for my game tomorrow and eventually trying to get some sleep. I just won my round 4 game. I escaped to the other side of the hotel where there's not much happening, and I am pretty satisfied. I don't think I played perfectly. I was probably worse for a little bit, but it didn't ever seem like he had a knockout blow. And he always had this kind of weakness with pawn on b3. And I think he made some inaccuracies down the stretch as he got into time pressure. I was able to take his b pawn, and then soon after that I won an exchange, and then it was not too difficult for me to win. That was tough though. He was pretty good. That took a lot of effort on my part, and there were times when I struggled to calculate, and there was a lot of energy required in that game. The last round game I'm going to be facing somebody lower rated than that guy. That guy was a decent expert, and I don't think that there's anybody else over 2,000, certainly not who I would be playing in the last round. So I think I'm the only player who is on 4 out of 4, and I'm going to be trying to win to get to 5 out of 5, but either way, my goal is to have fun, and I'm doing that right now. So I'm just going to chill out a little bit, try to get ready for my last game, although I have no indication of who I'm going to be playing or which color, so there's not that much I can do, and I'm just going to relax a little bit, and hopefully I'll have a good result in the last round, and I'll continue to have fun.
This game was just super complicated, but my opponent always had this weak pawn here on b3, which I was trying to attack from c5, and just somehow it was very difficult for white to defend it. And then I played queen d5, which I think is just a very natural centralizing move. And then I wanted to take on b3, but c8 would be hanging, so I moved my rook out of the way, and a few moves later, I was able to take the pawn. And not only is white now down a pawn, but it's a lot worse than that because I'm attacking the rook on c1, which is overloaded, defending the pieces on a1 and c4, so my opponent had to lose even more material here. He tried rook c7, and I just took on c1. Now I'm up 3 points of material, and I have a completely winning position. Since we were getting low on time, I'm going to forgive myself. I played one of the lamest moves in chess history here. I went for queen d7, just trying to force him to trade queens because otherwise the a-pawn is hanging. And he did that, and I was able to win the endgame pretty easily from this point. The move knight c3 here is really crushing because he's going to lose even more material. So my opponent resigned in this position. This was the most important game of the tournament because I won on command as black against the second seed. So with 1 round to go, I was ahead of the field by a full point.
Okay, I'm walking back to my car. I won the chess. I got the last round victory. I kind of destroyed that dude, not gonna lie. It's really cold and windy out here, but I'll take a look at the games when I get back. I'm pretty happy with my performance overall.
Here is the last round game. It was a lot of fun. Opening went well, middle game went well. I got a big space advantage, bishop pair, and I unleashed this huge attack against my opponent's king by playing f5. All my pieces are really well placed for this, so the computer says white's ridiculously winning here already. He tried taking on d4, I took back. Then if he had taken on c4, which he did not play, my plan was to play f takes e6. And now I'm threatening mate on f7, so he has to play rook takes, and then I was going to play bishop f5 followed by e6. And this is one of many ways to win here. So instead of that, my opponent tried to run away with his king. But then I played f takes e6, f takes e6, and when you are attacking, it is important to control the escape square. My opponent wants to escape to d8, so I played bishop g5. And it's a temporary piece sacrifice, but obviously I'm getting the piece back with a ton of interest. And then I advanced this pawn to f7 here. A few more moves happened. My opponent did the best he could, but it wasn't enough. And then after e6, he resigned. So I finished the tournament with 5 out of 5 and clear first place, and I was very happy with the last game. It was a great trip for me, but as the saying goes, eventually all good things must come to an end. Monday was a holiday, so I was able to stay one extra night, but I really needed to get back after that, so here are some of the final videos I took before leaving. I have to say I definitely like this place better when it's empty and cold like this than when it's crowded during the summer. It feels like you've reached the edge of the world or something. So I tried to take it all in before I had to go. So here I am a month later, finally putting together this video. I did get 5 out of 5 in that tournament. First time I think I've ever done that in my entire life. I can honestly say that it was a really good time. I'm very happy with how I played, but also all the other factors. My sleep, mental, physical health, my focus, all these things just really came together and worked out for me. I won a trophy, which I'll show a picture of on the screen, and also my rating went to 2212, which is of course the highest that it's ever been. Now for somebody like me who got to 2200 and then stopped playing for a long time, there were a lot of questions. Didn't know how I was going to perform in this tournament, didn't know if I could legitimately consider myself a master given that I just got into the number on the nose last year and then stopped playing for a while. Just had a lot of random things running around in my head. And I can say now that for the first time in my life at that tournament, I actually felt like I was someone in chess. And I know that USCFNM is not much in the grand scheme of things. Many people have achieved that title, but it is very special to me. And I didn't enjoy it that much when I first got it. It took me a long time to recognize, but I'm able to enjoy it now. And even if my rating falls under 2200 in the future, which I expect it might, that's no big deal because I could still be proud of the things that I have accomplished. And I know how much work it took for me to do those things. I don't expect that too many people watched all the way through this, but if any of you did, thank you so much. I have no idea what my next video will be or when it will come out, but I really appreciate all the support that I've gotten on the videos that I have posted. And I'll see you guys next time.